Hello everybody, welcome back to High Ground. My name is Tanner, and today we're going to be going over the finals bracket for the Copenhagen Major up until the grand final. We haven't seen the grand final yet, but we've seen all of the matches that set it up. And a correction from the last video, so I did leave a comment on it correcting it, and I pinned the comment, but they released a revised version, the correct version of the bracket, either as I was recording that or after I recorded it. So, I didn't see it until I'd posted it and whatnot. But originally they had this match, the FaZe versus Scars match, and W7M versus Eminem on the same side of the bracket. That didn't make sense because W7M and FaZe were the two teams that went 3-0 in the Swiss portion. So they should have been on opposite sides, and so they corrected it and they switched, either this one and this one or this one and this one, however you want to call it. But yeah, this is the the final version of the bracket, and here are all the scores for the matches. We've seen 3 2-0s, 3 2-1s, and then we'll have a best of 5 reaching some score. But again, that's tomorrow. We'll get there when we get there. As far as my predictions go, I guess I'll just say it now instead of as I'm going through it. I guess I didn't technically officially predict the semifinals because I did it early, and then also they changed the bracket and stuff. So I got 3 of the 4 initial matchups right. I said G2 over Liquid. I think I went with all of the popular picks, and I do think if there was one you were going to flip on, it was probably G2 Liquid, and I didn't make the call, so 3 out of 4 there. And in the semis, I don't know if I actually ever said it, but I went with Liquid and I went with Sonic, so I got 1 of the 2 right there. And I do think W7M was like the correct pick, the more likely pick, but I was rooting for the NA team, the non-Brazilian team, because I think it would have been a little bit more exciting to have 2 regions in the grand final rather than 1. But still, W7M versus Liquid looks like a pretty good matchup. We have seen it in the event already. I think it was a 7-5 victory in favor of W7M over Liquid on Bank, so still a close match, and they have a bit of a history. I think Liquid is better than them in the head-to-head historically, especially internationally. I think they played more than once, right? Certainly in I think it was Jönköping, right? Liquid eliminated W7M from the tournament, and W7M I think just doesn't have the best track record in general against LATAM teams when they play internationally. But, they did beat Liquid already in this event, so we'll see what happens there. Okay, I'm going to switch over to CGG pages to look at the actual matches. So first one up chronologically was FaZe versus Scars, and end the line for APAC. Most people expected it, but there was definitely a moment when people thought that maybe APAC was going to hang on after they took the second map. So FaZe 7-3 on Bank, 7-3 on Chalet, so pretty dominant on their maps, but Scars also pretty dominant on Skyscraper. They lose the first 3, so FaZe go up 3-0, but then Scars win the next 6 in a row, and then 1 for FaZe, 1 for Scars, and they close it out 7-4. So we've seen a lot of that at this event where teams go on like a really big round streak, and some of them even are at the end of one map and continue into the next map. We've seen 10 rounds in a row. We've seen 9 rounds in a row. We've seen 6 here. I think we've seen 6 at least on their time or 2. We've seen 5, and we'll get to that one in a little bit, but yeah, that was the first matchup, and I guess I'll show the stats since I'm on the page. Cyber and Handy, I think, have been the 2 better performers for the team in general, and they were in this match. And Fish liked the big one here, even though it was Rec that was sort of the big performer all tournament for Scars. Second match was W7M versus Eminem, and tough for Eminem. They should have won this. They let Cafe slip, and they won Border very dominantly. So had they not let Cafe slip, that would have been a 2-0 in their favor. And then they do end up going to the third map, and W7M does win it pretty dominantly. I did want to point this out. It was a little bit funny. Eminem win 2 rounds, W7M 2, Eminem 2, W7M 2, Eminem 1, W7M, Eminem, W7M. So they went back and forth with 2 rounds twice, and then they went back and forth with 1 round twice. And then they go to overtime, and W7M 2 rounds in a row, of course. It doesn't look that bad if you just look at the clutch stats. It was 2 for each of them, 2 by Nave, 1 by Nade, 1 by Herds. And speaking of Nade, he's been so good. This guy is really good. And W7M, I guess in general, are really good. But as a support player doing the stuff he's been doing, yeah, this guy's nuts. But anyway, and I guess same Solotov, I guess not a support player, but he's had quite the tournament. It comes to an end here. But as I was saying, only 2 1vx's for each of them. But I want to say W7M won like 2 2v4s, or one of them was a 2v4, one's 2v5, a few clutch situations that weren't just 1vx's. So that's really what I mean when I say that Eminem let it slip. They lost too many rounds that they should not have been losing, and it came back to bite them massively. They could have had a 2-0 over W7M and continued their run in the tournament, but not to be. The third matchup was G2 versus Liquid, of course the one that I got wrong, and I think that this match could have been a little bit better. We've only seen, I think, 2 overtime maps in all 15 maps we've seen in the bracket so far. A little bit lackluster. Most of the maps have been, decisive wins, 7-2, 7-3, 7-4s, that kind of thing. And, obviously, those are the 3 score lines we see in this matchup. It starts off hot for G2. They go up 3-1, but then Liquid wins 6 rounds in a row to close out Oregon. And, I mean, Liquid's just a classic Oregon team. They've been one of the best and I think continue to be one of the best Oregon teams in the world, if not just the best. And then G2, pretty good on Skyscraper, and they show it. They start off a little bit shaky, but when they get onto the defense, they sort of take over. And then G2, they just they never really get their footing on Theme Park, and Liquid sort of takes them to task there. But at the very beginning of Oregon, it looked like G2 was firing on all cylinders in the first 4 rounds. I think Benja had 11 kills, but then in the next 4 rounds he got 1 kill. There was an interrogation. It was just looking good for G2, but after that point, it was looking not all Liquid, because again, the Skyscraper went G2's way, but obviously Liquid was the much better team. They won 2 of the 3 maps, and they won them both more dominantly than G2 won Skyscraper. On the stats, I think this is pretty representative of what they did all event. Benja and Doki were fragging out, but they needed a little bit more help from Virtue or Alamau probably. Blur not doing so well, but he's the one that you don't really expect to get the frags compared to the rest. And Volps has been really popping off. In the first 3 or 4 matches that they played, and the first 3 were best of ones. After that, Volps has been really popping off. I think it started in the 1 versus Wolves, and then all of the playoff games, he's been top rated or one of the top rated, and now he is the top rated player on the team. I think he might have been the lowest or the second lowest. Lagonis has been doing really good considering he's their hard support IGL, but Volps really showing what he's worth there. Even some people saying maybe Volps isn't the right fit for Liquid, and then he just starts popping off massively after that. Anyways, let's go on to the 4th match. We have Sonics versus NIP. So this is the only 2-0 of the first day, and actually it's all 2-0s from here. So it was 3 2-1s and then 3 2-0s, and so we barely missed out on having all 12 maps on the first day. But these were this was the closest series map-wise, I guess. Even if it was the only 2-0, it was overtime and then a max regulation. So Sonics take it down, but it is a close one. They could have lost either of these matches, either of these maps, and it's a pretty good team effort. Geo actually on top, you don't see that all the time, sort of nice to see. And Psycho, the big performer for NIP, as he has been all tournament. I think a lot of the players on the team have had their moments, but Psycho was pretty consistently the best, and which is always cool to see considering he's such a veteran of the game. Okay, on to the semifinals. We have FaZe versus Liquid, and this is one of the classic matchups in the game, and at this point it might be the longest standing almost always a banger. Anyone can win, it goes back and forth. FaZe has been taking it recently. In this stage, they played in groups that FaZe won, I think it was round 15, and then they 2-0'd Liquid in the playoffs. So they won all 3 maps that they played prior to this, but I think last stage 3 of last year, I think they played in the actual stage, and I think it was Liquid win, and then I think they also played in Copa Elite 6, and it was a 2-0. So FaZe won the most recent 3 besides this, and Liquid won the 3 before that, and I don't remember before that, but very, very back and forth. But I guess based on the back and forth nature, it was Liquid's time again, and indeed proved. This was, I think, the most decisive match that we've seen in the finals bracket so far. Only 5 rounds won by FaZe. Same thing that Liquid did to Dark Zero actually in the Swiss. I think it was a 7-4 and then a 7-1, but still same score lines across the 2 maps. Only 5 rounds won by their opponents. And Handy doing pretty well again. Cyber really getting shut down uncharacteristically. Volps on top once again. Nesk also firing. Everyone's doing really well on Liquid, I think, except for Reset, sort of the quiet guy, but he's certainly had his moments as well. And then the final matchup that we've already seen here, W7M versus Sonics, and it was much closer when they played each other in Swiss. 8 round, it was 8-7 in favor of W7M, but again, Sonics they get 7 rounds, but it's over the course of 2 maps instead of 1. W7M, they were just the better team on the day, and I think they're just a better team overall. Sonics certainly could have won it, and maybe send them back to the shop. Maybe next major they'll be able to take it down. But you can't even say that they need more time to get their stuff straight, because W7M just had 2 roster changes, whereas Sonics have had a little bit more time to adjust. I think Sonics did have a little bit of a role swap up, a system swap up, but still, not that they're a bad team. Obviously, they're the best performing North American team, the best performing non-Brazilian team and 2 majors in a row. You know, if you don't count SI, they were top 4 in Jönköping, the highest of any NA team, and now they're top 4 here in Copenhagen, highest of any NA team, once again. And stats-wise, yeah, Citizen needed a little bit more backup fragging-wise. On the first map, he got like 17, so I guess he only got 6 in the second one, but he's really popping off, and you know, just need a little bit more help. Rexon really brutal in this one, unfortunately. Great player, but he just didn't show up versus W7M like he needed to. And Philippok's been, I think, the most quiet player on W7M throughout the tournament, but a really massive showing here. Like, this is a crazy stat line. And 4 1vx's in 2 maps. This guy got 4 1v. That is crazy. Oh man, crazy stuff. Anyways, that does it for all the matches, so I guess let's just talk about the grand final a little bit. W7M versus Liquid, like did I say it? I don't know. This is not my first recording of this, so maybe I didn't say it. They played each other a bunch. They've been like the 2 best teams in Brazil over the course of the last year. Liquid definitely fell short at SI, and they've fallen short so many times, right? They just narrowly lost in Jönköping in round 5, so back-to-back major grand finals. Again, if you exclude SI and just count the actual majors, the one that are called majors, then yeah, back-to-back grand final appearances for Liquid. They lost to BDS, and W7M back-to-back grand finals appearances if you do include SI. They went from top 12 in Charlotte to top 4 in Berlin, top 4 in Jönköping, top 2 at SI, and they're top 2 again. So they are on a strictly non-decreasing path, and let's see if they can finally get their win. Both of these teams are very much deserving. Like W7M, definitely the best team of last year. You know, you could say, I guess it's G2 because they won the world championship, right? But over the course of last year, it was definitely W7M, and Liquid have just been such a strong contender for years and years and years now. When only Nesk of the players now on the roster, you know, it was a very different roster back then, but Nesk was still there. They won Pro League, I think, season 7, and so not even an actual major or SI. So they, you know, technically Nesk has won something, but it was so over 5 years ago. And you know, Liquid lost in the SI 2021 Grand Finals. They lost in the Jönköping Grand Finals. Either of these teams are very deserving victors, and it's definitely going to be a situation either way of finally these guys won something. So I mean, we'll see what happens here. I sent out a few tweets. I think it'd be super cool if whoever's on the cast, I don't know if they're gonna have Ace and Dez, or maybe even Ace, Dez, and Intero, if they did the same lines from SI 2018. They're often known as the best team in the world, never having that distinction until today. W7M are your Copenhagen Major champions. I think that'd be cool, but maybe they don't want to rehash like that. So that's a reason to root for W7M, because I think that'd be a cool call, even though I kind of don't think that's going to happen. And Liquid, I mean, God, I don't know if I can take seeing the heartbreak on Nesk and Palu's face again if they lose again. I'm going to go W7M for my prediction. I don't know. I just feel like they've been the better team over the course of the last year, but they did have a pretty significant change-up, bringing in 2 new players to replace Julio and Volps. And speaking of Volps, he's now on Liquid. So this is a rematch, or not only is it a rematch from the Swiss FaZe, but it's another grudge match, you might call it. I don't know if there's any sort of bad blood between them. Probably not, but maybe. But again, Volps taking on his old team, and he just took a loss to them in Swiss, and he's since then been so crazy good in this tournament. So we'll see what happens. I'm gonna predict W7M, but I don't even know who I'm really rooting for in the end. So okay, that's gonna do it for me. If you have your own prediction for the grand final, I'm sure most of you do, feel free to leave it below. Why do you think it's W7M, or why do you think it's Liquid? And I mean, if you want to talk about how good or how bad you predicted the bracket up to this point, let me know. I think the only real upset was G2 losing to Liquid. I think the rest of these were the expected result, even if they were only slightly more expected than the alternative. So okay, at this point, the video is getting a little bit long, so I'll cut it off. Comment, like, subscribe, and with all that being said, catch you guys in the next one.